In this video, I'd like to talk about some special case rules that apply to stairs and railings with respect to view range. In a previous video, we talked about special rules that apply to walls and floors, if you recall. Well, in this video, I want to focus more on stairs and railings, which have similar behaviors, but they also have some of their own special behavior as well. Now, to help me do this, I've got a simple file here that just contains 3 out-of-the-box stairs. I've got an assembled stair, I've got a cast-in-place stair, and I've got a precast stair. And I didn't do anything special to these stairs. I just simply drew them, accepting all of the default settings. If I open up this south elevation, you can see that each of these stairs spans from level 1 to level 2. And so they're all kind of right there, stopping at level 2. If I go to the level 1 floor plan, naturally all the stairs display. That shouldn't be terribly surprising. But if I go to the level 2 floor plan, then it might be a little surprising that we see the stairs here because, as we just saw it in the elevation, they all stop just below the level. So if you recall the rule that applied to floors, which said that any floor that was within a 4-foot or 1,200 millimeter distance of the bottom of the view range would continue to display within that floor plan, we have a similar rule here controlling the stairs. So what I'm going to do is zoom in a little bit right here so that I can see a couple of these stairs. And then I will type VR to go to the view range dialog. Let me just sort of move it out of the way here. And I've got all the default settings. So I'm going to start adjusting the bottom of the view range here. Let me try adding an offset of 1 foot or 300 millimeters. Click apply, no change to the view. Let's try 2 feet or 600 millimeters. Click apply, still no change. When I get to 3 feet and I click apply, you will see a slight change. Now you'll notice that these lines here turned halftone gray, and previously this geometry was covered up. So if I go back to 2 and click apply, you see how that's a solid object right there. But as soon as I get to 3, that becomes sort of transparent and halftone gray. So what's actually going on there, if I click OK, is these are the railings. And when we get up to 3 foot or 900 millimeters, we're now raising the bottom of the view range above the railings. So now what's happening is the display that's kicking in for those railings is actually using the underlay feature, which really isn't anything to do with the view range at all. So remember that this project is using all the default settings. And if we look at the properties for the level 2 floor plan, scroll down, the underlay feature says to create an underlay from level 1 to level 2 and look down on it. So we're now seeing the railing from the floor plan below, and it's half-toning in. So to avoid any confusion or complexity here and to focus just on the view range, let's go ahead and turn that off. So I'm going to change level 1 to none and then apply that. Now when I do, it's completely counterintuitive what happens, because now all of a sudden the railings are displaying again and they're back to being full intensity. Well, if we go back to view range, we can explain what's going on. All I did was move the bottom of the view range. I did not change the view depth. And if you watched the video on view depth, then you know that we've now enabled the view depth by saying there's a range between 3 and 0, and any element that falls within that range will now use that beyond line style, and that's what's happening with these railings. So if I take the view depth and raise it up to the current height of bottom, effectively disabling the view depth, and then click apply, you're going to see those railings disappear. So they disappeared over here and over here. Now, this looks like a railing, but actually there's the railing, and that's the stringer of the stair. So we now are no longer seeing the railings in either case because we've moved the bottom of the view range above the point of the railings. And if you go back to the south elevation, you can kind of visualize that. Our view range is now cutting above. Well, it's not only cutting, it's also the bottom of it is actually above those railing locations. So I'll go back to level 2 here. Now I'm going to zoom out a little further so that we can see these other stairs here. And notice there's still a railing displayed right here. So that one must just poke up past that 3-foot range just a little bit, right? So let's go back to view range. And I'm going to raise the bottom of the view range even further. In fact, I'm going to make it equal to the cut plane. So I'm going to change that to 4. and I'll change this to 4 as well. So I've got all 3 of these set to 4. I'll click apply, or 1200 if you're using metric. And now, because we've hit that 4 mark, we're getting that behavior that's similar to the way floor elements behaved. And now the stairs are 4 feet or 1200 below the current view range. And so now the stair itself no longer displays as well. Now, if I drop this down to 311, and I have to drop this one as well to 311 and click apply, both of these stairs would redisplay, but notice the railings over here do not. So with the railing, you just simply need to be above the railing. But with the stair, there's this extra 4 feet or 1200 millimeters of allowance, if you want to think of it like that, to allow the stair to continue to display on the levels below. And that's just a default built-in behavior, just like we had with floor elements. So why is it that when I'm at 4, this one is still displaying? Well, there, it's very simple. If I go to the south elevation and I zoom in really close, there's just a tiny portion of the stair there that's poking up above the current level, which means in order to get this stair to disappear in the second floor, I would actually need to be at about 4.2 or 4.3. In other words, that 4-foot range is to the uppermost portion of this object. So if any portion of the object intersects the view range, it displays the entire object. So back to level 2, VR. If I made this 4'3" or perhaps 1250, 1275, I'll make both of these 4'3", click apply. It's complaining that I need to also change my cut plane. I forgot to do that one. So let me make all 3 of them 4'3", click apply, then it disappears. So if you don't want to see those lower stairs at all, you've got to keep in mind this extra 4 feet that is built into the behavior of the view range. Now, let me go back to level 1 and let's talk about where the stair is actually being cut. So this diagonal cut line that we're seeing here occurs at the cut plane. But unlike other elements that are cuttable, the stair continues to display the portion of the stair that's above that cut line. And that's a unique behavior of stairs and railings. So the first thing is, of course, the cut. And if I went to view range and I raise this cut height and click apply, it will actually move where that diagonal cut occurs. So that is being controlled by the cut plane. This information here that we're seeing dashed in, this is part of the stair itself. So you can access those components in either object styles or visibility graphics. So if I go to object styles, I'm controlling it globally for any floor plan anywhere in the project. If I go to visibility graphics, I'm doing just this view. So I'll go to object styles, scroll down, locate the stair category, expand it, and you'll see that there's a series of above components here that are being controlled by these elements right here. Now notice that all of them are set to a dashed line pattern called overhead. So I could turn on and off any of these components. I can change the line pattern that's being used, and I can change the projection and cut that's being used. So I have a great deal of control over each of these items. For example, sometimes folks don't want to see the riser lines. They only want to see the nosing edge. Now, what you can do in object styles is change the display characteristics, but you can't actually turn things on and off. So let me just show you what the riser lines are. Let's change this from overhead 16th to overhead and click apply. And you'll see that the inner line there gets a little bit longer dash. So that's one way that I could deal with it. That would be global throughout the entire project. But if I wanted to actually turn them off, I would go to visibility graphics, scroll down, find the stair element, expand it, and then I could take the riser lines above, uncheck it, click apply, and now it would hide the display of those elements. Now, railings also have above components, so you can experiment with turning on and off the various above settings for each of the parts and pieces of the stairs and railings. So where the cut actually occurs is coming from the view range, but then how each of those components displays and which ones display is a combination of object styles and visibility graphics.